former war prisoner. His personal experiences. From 1942 till 1945. Living a life in captivity and distress due to the Japanese invasion in Java, Dutch East Indies. Being sent to Burma as a war prisoner and with many fellow war victims forced to help building Japan's strategic war project, the Burma Railway, known as Death Railroad. A former Indo-Dutch World War II war prisoner and survivor whose fear and grievance has never been recognized by the Dutch authorities. This is his story.
In which city and which year were you born? And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I had 4 sisters, 3 brothers. Yeah, and but one of my brothers got killed by the Japs. He has to dig his own grave, and then they shoot him. This was happened in Samarinda, in the Borneo. They thought they ruined the raffinaderijen in upper Borneo, but I don't know if it is true. He was working as a telegrapher, so I don't know, maybe he did something wrong with that. I never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When is your birthday and in which year were you born?
I was born on May 5, 1923. Yeah. So I'm now about 98. I lived 97 and a half years now.
What can you tell the other Indos to become so healthy, strong? What is the secret? When you were in the camps, what kept you strong, motivated? Willpower? I'm going to get alive out of the camp. What is a message to us? How do you manage that?
First thing, I thank God that He did so much for me. With so many sickness as a prisoner of war, I am lucky that I'm still alive. But keep your body intact. I mean, if you have to work, don't try to get out of it. Stay busy. Yeah. Many people of the prisoner of war, they get mentally ill, and so, yeah, it's no good to stay in a camp and doing nothing, but stay busy all your life, actually, and do exercises every day. that's what I did.
During your time in the camp, were you allowed to exercise? Did the Japanese soldiers allow you guys to exercise?
As a prisoner of war, you don't need exercise. They do it for us. Let us work, digging in the sun,
Yeah.
in warm sun.
Did they use sticks, weapons to punish the prisoners of war? And what do you remember?
No, they don't use their weapons or so. No, just slap you if they don't like it. Yeah, but they don't use their weapons.
Have you ever been back to the Netherlands or to Indonesia?
No,
No.
no. To the Netherlands, yes. My family was there.
Have you ever met up with co-prisoners during the years that you have been here in America? Or did you lose all contacts?
No, some with Willie
Welker
Belker.
en Jill Welker, ja.
Yeah, they were good friends. Yeah, we played tennis, and yeah, and so many other ex-POV people. Yeah,
Many were still alive from your age group. They still have not received any back pay. What will you say for the Dutch ministry for the upcoming elections so that our voices are heard and that they really going to take care of that handful of people? What is your message to the Dutch government?
finally, after so many people are not living anymore, they came with this act to give the money. They needed to give it long time ago already. So, after 6 months or so, we were shipped to Surabaya, and there we stayed in the military dienst service for another 1 or 2 years, I don't know anymore, until I get a job. So I can stop with the military dienst service, and I started a job at the sugar mills. That was a good time for me. My first job, actually, at 27 years, very late, but we couldn't do anything about that. The war is terrible.
So you also mentioned that after you were released from the camp, you were trained by an army group called Gurkhas, but soon after you joined the Gajah Merah troops. The Gajah Merah, meaning Red Elephant, a unit of the WWII Brigade of the KNIL, Koninklijke Nederlandse Indische Leger, better known as the antagonists.
We were trained by the Gurkhas and the English soldiers, and to go to Indonesia, to Java and Sumatra. My brother did that all.
The Gurkha or the Gorkha are people from Nepal and the north of the Indian state of West Bengal. They take their name from the reigning dynasty. The Gurkha are best known for their role as soldiers in the service of the British Army, the Brigade of Gurkha. What about that day that Japan surrendered. Can you tell us a bit about the officer who gave you the news and how sentimental he became?
Oh yeah. Those officers in our last camp in Bang Pong, they were nice people, really. Not only the one I know personally, but all those guys, those officers. But one day, around the 15th of August in 1946, 45, came to our camp with tears in his eyes, telling us that the war was over. It was bad for him, but good for us.
Uncle,
Yeah.
could you please tell us where you were during the Bersiap period? Do you remember something about that?
The Bersiap was still there, but I have never noticed. Well, I hear something, but news that there and there they were fighting the Plopo.
The Bersiap was known as the most violent time in Dutch Indonesian history from October 1945 through early 1946. The words Bersiap and Siap are derived from the Malaysian language and actually means prepare and be ready for action. Where were you during the Bersiap? Which city were you?
I was in Pekalongan. I was in Jakarta. But you know, not all those guys were bad. My upper boss was, he likes hunting. And where do we get the weapons, the guns? We went to the police head and we asked for guns, and they gave it to us. So, you know, sometimes another time when I was working in the sugar mills, when there were when it was over the milling, we get kind of a feast, and we introduce some ploppers, you know. But they are all bearded and so on, really rough people. So my boss said, "You bring them home with your jeep." I say, "I do that? But that's dangerous." "No, you do that." And I have to go 3 in the jeep. And I go to the kampong. And well, nothing happened, luckily. They were nice people.
Yeah.
So, whatever you do, you know, if you are friendly with the people over there, you can do a lot of things.
When you were working before you went to Holland in the new Republican Indonesia, Did you experience any animosity from the Indonesians, or were they still respectful towards you as a Dutch Indo?
I don't have so much problem, no. Because I work in the engineering office. People were nice. Yeah.
So then you moved to Holland. And how long did you stay in Holland before you immigrated to the US?
Oh yeah, I stayed 6 years in Holland. And then the Pastori Walter back came. And we got the chance to go to America as an immigrant. So that was something we never have expected.
Situated in the early years of the Japanese occupation, the debate over revision of U.S. immigration law demonstrated a division between those interested in a relationship between immigration and foreign policy, and those linking immigration to concerns over national security. Democratic Senator from Nevada, Pat McCarran, and Democratic Congressman from Pennsylvania, Francis Walter, the McCarran-Walter Act allowed for people of Asian descent to immigrate and to become citizens, which had been banned by laws like the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. And of 1924 Asian Exclusion Act.
The 1952 Immigration Act, the McCarran-Walter Act, kept that national origins quota in place, and then did something very odd and contradictory with regard to Asians. On the one hand, it removed the bar on naturalization, so now Asian immigrants can naturalize. But at the same time, it said only for Asian immigrants, they would be identified by race and not by national origin. So this meant like a person of Japanese descent who grew up in Brazil and wanted to come to the United States would be counted not in the Brazilian quota, but in the Japanese quota. Even though he was set 2 or 3 generations removed from Japan, everyone else was counted by national origin. Only Asians had that particular status. So it's a very contradictory act in that sense. And Truman, in fact, President Truman vetoed that act because he thought it was discriminatory, but they overrode the veto.
The Immigration of Nationality Act of 1952, the McCarran-Walter Act, it also ended Asian exclusion from immigrating to the United States and introduced a system of preferences based on skill sets and family reunification.
When we were here in the United States, somebody from one of the sponsors brought us home to where we are now sitting. But we were so lucky. We get right away a house, complete with furniture, complete with cans of meat and whatever, and silverware all over. Lucky for us.
Yeah.
They were rich farmers, so they can do that.
Can you tell us about your relationship with the Japanese officer in the camp and about the Japanese invading Korea and making the Koreans fight for the Japanese? And can you also tell us about the women, the so-called comfort women?
Well, yeah, this is one. He was working in the laboratory as an officer, and he maybe was a pharmacist in Java when we were still there. it doesn't happen frequently that a soldier get befriended with a Japanese officer, but I did.
Could you tell us about the Japanese when they came to Korea? They captured the women. Also, they made the Koreans fight for the Japanese. And these were the cruel soldiers.
It happened in not only in Korea, but in China. They were very rough, you know, and they did the same thing over there, taking women and made them prostitutes. And when they were in Java, the same thing happened. I know some of those prostitutes. They were a friend of mine, but yeah, sometimes they have to get food, and the only way to get food is doing that terrible thing, you know. Yeah.